Hello, and welcome to The History Student. For some time now, I've been fascinated by books of hours. These medieval and early modern Christian prayer books were used to pray at specific times of the day or night, and were extremely popular amongst the wealthy. So join me as I delve into the history of these beautiful hand illuminated pieces of Christian material culture. This is Books of Hours, Illuminating the Private Prayer Book. Prayer, devotion, and quiet contemplation. These are a few words that encapsulate the purpose of the medieval Book of Hours. Growing in popularity amongst the wealthy during the medieval age, each prayer book was unique, exquisitely designed, and would have been a familiar and comforting piece of Christian material culture, as well as a symbol of social rank that accompanied its owner on their journey of personal piety. The history of these beautiful hand illuminated manuscripts is worthy of illumination itself, along with how they were experienced and who they were experienced by. I've been lucky enough to see three books of hours in person, two of which were owned by Queen Consorts to King Henry VIII, and one by his doomed Chief Minister, Thomas Cromwell. By illuminating the private prayer book, I hope to cast a light on those who have gone before us, on their lives, social status, personal beliefs, and religious practices during the late medieval and early modern period. During the Middle Ages, books of hours became increasingly popular amongst the affluent, particularly pious, high ranking women who used them to pray at specific hours of the day or night. Written in Latin, a book of hours was a very personal item, which reflected the beliefs and individual preferences of its owner. Often made to order, the commissioner may have requested a favourite religious saint be depicted, specific colours and prayers be included, or decorations and a family coat of arms be added to the pages. In the absence of decent quality paper, animal skin was frequently used to create parchment, which is written on and decorated in line with the patron's tastes. Due to the prohibitive cost of these beautifully decorated books, they were often passed down through a family's female line, and were frequently included in wills or even given as wedding presents. It was also customary practice for the custodian to sign their name, write a religious quote or short line of poetry, alongside the series of short prayers to the Virgin Mary. These prayers were performed at regular intervals throughout the day at 8 specific hours, hence the name Book of Hours. In addition to prayers, these books also included religious calendars, designed to help its owner keep track of a busy religious schedule of feast days and Christian festivals at the heart of pre-Reformation England. The hand-painted illuminations depicted key moments in the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary, including the Immaculate Conception, Annunciation, Visitation, and other familiar scenes from the Nativity. The Book of Hours was a popular piece of Christian material culture used by many women from wealthy backgrounds in medieval England and early modern Europe, and many survive today, including two owned by wives of King Henry VIII. Marriage to the infamous King Henry was not the only mutual connection that united Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn. They also owned the same copy of a Book of Hours, produced by the renowned French printer Germain Hardouin in Paris circa 1527. By the time these two books reached their new owners at the Tudor court in 1528, Catherine's star was very much on the wane, whereas Anne's was on a meteoric rise. Catherine had failed to produce a living male heir, and the king now hung all his hopes for a son on Anne, his sweetheart and queen in waiting. Anne's Book of Hours, now on permanent display at her childhood home of Hever Castle in Kent, reflects her status at this time. Its pages are elaborately decorated, with red, gold, and blue embellishments, and oval borders surround the various religious scenes, fitting for a future Queen Consort of England. Contrastingly, Catherine's Hours is far more simplistic. Though similar scenes are depicted, no oval borders surround the images, and the use of colour is more restrained, making the whole image appear somewhat flat. But why is this? Why are these two books from the same printed batch so different? Historians surmise that King Henry gifted these books to the two women himself. Perhaps he was signalling his change in loyalty. By this point, Anne was as good as queen. Why not have a Book of Hours to match? Then again, it is possible that Anne commissioned her own copy, requesting the intricate detailing herself, as we know Anne had a deep appreciation of beautifully decorated books which she carried throughout her life. Of course, these notable differences could indicate the contrast in their personalities. Anne's colourful and flamboyant tastes appear far more ostentatious than Catherine's seemingly modest preferences. No doubt Catherine was feeling increasingly isolated during this time of her life, and relied on her faith more than ever, escaping into her hours and a routine of private prayer where she found solace and comfort. These books do contain signs of haptic wear, i.e., signs of touching or even kissing on the pages. This provides us a glimpse into the ways in which these books were used and experienced during an age where religion was at the heart of daily life. Remarkably, Anne has left a clever rhyming couplet in her Hours, which was likely written during the late 1520s. It reads, "Remember me when you do pray, that hope doth lead from day to day." Consequently, Anne and Catherine are forever linked through their similar yet different Books of Hours. However, an even more unusual Book of Hours was recently uncovered after over 300 years spent in a library, its true identity yet to be revealed. Thomas Cromwell was the king's chief minister, his adviser, and right-hand man, who fell victim to the executioner's sword in 1540 and is immortalised in the famous portrait depicting him by the talented court painter Hans Holbein the Younger. It is this painting that was the key to discovering our next Book of Hours. This well-known portrait features a book placed upon a green tablecloth in front of Cromwell, and is embellished with fine jewels and a luxurious binding. However, for centuries, no one knew what this book was. Was it a Bible? A work of theology or philosophy? No one knew. That was until its true identity was recently uncovered by the combined efforts of the curatorial team at Hever Castle. It was in fact a Book of Hours that had been held in the collection of the Wren Library at Trinity College, Cambridge, for the past 350 years, and is the very same book seeing the famous portrait by Holbein. This Hours is unusual in many ways. Firstly, it has its original binding and silver gilt edging, whereas Anne and Catherine's Hours have been rebound. Secondly, it still possesses its original grossular garnets, though one has been removed from a now lost clasp and attached to the back cover. Thirdly, it is one of a very few surviving Tudor objects depicted in a 16th century artwork. The other striking element of this book is its similarity to Anne and Catherine's Hours. In fact, this is a copy of that same batch of books printed by Germain Hardouin in Paris circa 1527. This copy is also not as luxurious as Anne Boleyn's, but the fact that Cromwell owned a book similar to that of a queen and queen in waiting speaks volumes. At the time of the Holbein portrait's creation, Cromwell had recently been appointed Master of the Jewel House. Does the choice to feature this bejewelled book signal his promotion? Interestingly, the book and its binding are in excellent condition, which could indicate a lack of use on Cromwell's part. Perhaps it was the extent of his involvement in Anne Boleyn's spectacular downfall that no doubt kept him busy. Overall, the medieval Book of Hours was an exquisite and deeply personal piece of Christian material culture, and its growing popularity is evidenced by the number that survive in museums, libraries, and private collections today. Each book was used and experienced differently, from kissing and touching its pages to indicating social rank or sitting with quietly by candlelight, long into the night. Anne Boleyn, Catherine of Aragon, and Thomas Cromwell are testament to their enduring popularity at the Tudor court, and there are unsubstantiated rumours that Anne's may have accompanied her to the scaffold. As I stood and gazed upon these glorious books in a room full of the hustle and bustle of visitors, the frequent click of a camera, or the sound of a jet plane flying overhead, I was reminded of the world in which these books were used. The gentle rumble of a passing horse and cart on the cobbles outside has been replaced with the rush of passing cars, the murmur of a conversation in a nearby great hall with the sounds of long-distance phone calls. The world has certainly grown louder. Books of Hours function as silent remembrance to a lost age, where private prayer and quiet contemplation were the order of the day. Illuminating the Book of Hours casts a light on those who have gone before us, and on a way of life so vastly different from our own today. That brings us to the end of the episode on Books of Hours, illuminating the private prayer book. Thanks so much for joining me. If you'd like to see pictures of the Books of Hours I've discussed in this episode, head over to my website, where I've included a series of pictures, link in the description. You can also find me on Instagram, where I upload regular historical content at the handle @thehistory_student. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more historical content.